Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Hope everybody had a good day today. We're halfway through the week, so it should be getting better. First off, I want to apologize for last night. It was no major deal. I had family come in from out of town. My nephew and his wife and their young son, and we ran around in the yard and played with rabbits and done crazy stuff all day long. And the little kid wore me out. I was beat well before showtime, so I had to catch me a little early nap, and yeah, he wore me out, man. Whew, I forgot how much energy them little kids have. So that was the reason I had to cancel last night, just because I was whipped and I didn't get any prep time in. So I apologize for that. The topic we were going to do last night was the supply chain, and you know what? It's okay that we skipped that one because everybody seems to be covering it, but I'll fit it back in, in the next few days. Let's see who all we got in here today. Susanna, what's going on, Susanna? Off the wall prepper, what's going on, brother? Milkmaid, hello. Georgia Peach, ship kicker, what's going on? Spotted Fawn, welcome. Hillbilly Homesteader, howdy. Sherry Leach, hello. Militant Roots, Native, what's going on, brother? Tennessee, Ronnie Braun, Between Prepping, hello, Nikki. Hoop, what's going on, Hoop? Yeah, I hope everybody's having a great day. Um, Mine was pretty boring actually. Sheila, hello. Fox, what's going on, POTB? Hey, any of you, I invited a couple people to join, but I was a little bit late. Hello, Angela B, Christina Green. If any of you cats wanna come up here, Yankee Watchdog, and help me disseminate some of that knowledge that I know a bunch of you have on this topic and this subject, I will drop the link and feel free to click it and come on up and hang out with us. Um, yeah, so it was a pretty good day. Didn't get a whole lot done. I've been dragging. I don't know, for some reason, man. My energy level's just been low especially since it is what it is. But yeah, so the topic for today is going to be, how are you going to heat your house in the wintertime? If something happens. And by something, I mean, well, there's several things that could happen. But, and this is a topic that I brought up months ago, when all these hacks were happening on the power grid, the fuel oil pipelines, the computer systems that run the shipping and receiving and all that good stuff for the supply chain. Which, you know, if you look at it with a broad set of glasses, you can go, wow, man, that's a lot of hacking going on in a bunch of different things. So it's kind of random. But if you look at it with your blinders on and a trained set of eyes and you're in a defensive mode, you can look at the three major things that were hacked, or the three major things that will kill us in the wintertime. Not having any heating oil, not having any food, and not having any power. So to me, when it all happened, I don't know, this summer when they were test driving everything, it's like what I like to call it. It felt very strategic. It felt very organized, and it really felt like, honestly, like a test run. And then you get comments, well, they paid the bounty or the ransom or whatever you want to call it. No, they didn't. Okay, because they would have caught them if they paid it. You can trace the money, you can track the money. I mean, all it was, oh, we forked over several $1,000,000 to make sure you guys are warm. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You may pretend that you did, and they didn't even actually probably wrote it off on your taxes, so you made money in the process. But you didn't pay any ransom because there wasn't one. And it got me to thinking, with wintertime right around the corner, what's up, Hutch? With wintertime right around the corner, you guys, it would be a very smart move for you to spend a few minutes of your day. Hang on one second. Let me get this in the chat. It would be a very smart move for you guys to take a few minutes and just kind of run it through your head, wintertime. Well, obviously, the first thing you're going to need to worry about is your location. Where are you located at? Are you in South Florida? Are you in, LA? Are you somewhere where you really don't have a winter, to speak of? I lived in Florida for several years. I I remember turning the heat on in the house, I think twice in the 10 or 12 years that I lived there, just simply because it got, to me, climatized to Florida, it got down into the, 40s and 50s, and that was just brutal cold, so the heat came on. So it's number one, it's going to depend on location. If you're in an area that really doesn't require any heat, then you're probably going to be okay. I would still suggest, maybe stocking up on some blankets and stuff like that, just in case it gets cold a few nights. But if you're in an area, you know, central, I mean, if you're in an area above, definitely above the Mason-Dixon line, um, and you're relying on heating oil to heat your house, um, I would go ahead and plan on a secondary way to heat your home. Here where I'm at, we use natural gas, but my hot water is taken care of with propane. But I also have a fireplace. So if the heating oil goes to the roof, or there's another hack, what's going on, zombie? Hey, Billy Truth, what's going on? Then I can heat my house with the fireplace. Now that brings another thing into play. Do you have firewood stock? Can you get firewood? Do you have a chainsaw? Do you have an axe? Do you have a way to go get the firewood and make sure that you have it? Or do you have a couple of cords already stacked up out back, ready to go, and you get it, 2 and 3 years ahead of time, which would be a smart move, which is something I need to work on. But my property's full of trees, and there's decades worth of deadfall out there. I just got to go grab it and bring it in. So I'm not really too concerned about what to burn. But if wood is your backup option and you don't have access to wood, then what are you going to do? There are plenty of videos on YouTube about how to build or how to make your own fire logs out of paper and sawdust and things like that, and water. I mean, there's some really, really ingenious ways, and you can actually order the log brick maker from Amazon, where you press your own bricks out of old paper, newspaper, cardboard, things like that you throw away. But you can legit make your own fire logs for free. I mean, it just takes a little bit of time to bust it up with a drywall bit, and put into a press the water out, and then let it dry for a few days. And those things, I've never used one. I've seen them used, and I've seen people's videos, and they seem to burn for a couple hours. They're pretty ingenious, and it's free. Um, you know, but other people, maybe you don't have a fireplace, so that's not an option. And there are plenty of stories and actual news coverage of people in the wintertime when they were without power. They, I don't know where they thought this was a good idea, but they brought their barbecue grill in the house and tried to heat their home with their barbecue grill, burning charcoal, releasing nothing but the stuff that you can't breathe. And they killed themselves. And that's just crazy. Here where I'm at, my location, I mean, last winter was a very mild winter, but the winters don't get super, super cold here. I could legit make it no problem at all without any heat, without a fireplace. Just, by bundling up, using blankets, things like that. But, insulation, number one. I mean, are you in an older house? Do you have sufficient insulation in your ceiling? Because that's where the heat's going to go. Heat rises, people. It goes up through your roof. If you don't have insulation, it just radiates out into the atmosphere, and it's really tough to keep your house, warm. What's going on, Rip? But Farmer Son Prepping, hello. But Stars Prepper, how you doing tonight? But my suggestion, if the power goes out and you don't have any heat, you reduce your footprint. You pick one room, insulate the crap out of it. I mean, you can. Honestly, you're going to lose a lot of heat out of your windows, in the wintertime. I mean, just walk up to your window in the wintertime and hold your hand up, 4 or 5 inches from the window, and feel how cold it is on your hand. All right. The only reason your hand's getting cold is because the heat is leaving the room. That's the cold coming in. So insulate it. I mean, something as easy as cardboard. You might think cardboard doesn't do anything. It works for the homeless, and it works real well. But what you want to do, you don't just want to put one layer of cardboard up over your window. Put a layer of cardboard up over your window, then make an air gap and put another layer. All right, so you want to insulate that, and you can insulate your windows that way. Back in the old days of growing up, we used to just go outside with sheets of plastic, and we would staple plastic around the windows to help hold the heat in. During the wintertime. That's something that we did every winter because we heated with wood. and it was an old house. That was like a yearly ritual, was to put plastic on the windows for the wintertime. I mean, that's just the way it was. And yeah, off the wall, cardboard works, so does straw on the cold side of the house. Yeah, I mean, you can use pretty much any, even if all you do is just put an air gap there. So that air gap it acts like a thermal insulator. Um, if you're lucky enough and you have plenty of styrofoam, use that. But you can go on Amazon, you can go to Walmart, and you can get things called thermal curtains. And there are thermal curtains that they work in the summertime to keep your house cool. You hang them up over your windows and it keeps the heat out. But they also work pretty good in the wintertime by holding the heat in. Um, Things like that. Another, yeah, another reindeer moss. Another really good way to keep warm. Oh, Milkmaid beat me to the punch. That was my next point. Milkmaid, pretty good. Extra socks, panties, and leggings. Layer it. Well, maybe not the panties. Here's a true story. Upstate New York, Fort Drum. I was stationed there in the military, and it got down to negative. Ooh, cold as crap out there. I've been in the field at 40 below. I wore pantyhose. Everybody did. Pantyhose helps keep your leg warm. What it does is it creates an air gap between the outside of the pantyhose and your outer layer of clothing. So you want to layer. I mean, if you've got a tight layer, you want loose layers on the outside of that. Polypropylene and Gore-Tex work great. They make that's open on the market now. It didn't used to be, but you want to layer your clothing. Another great way to stay warm, and it may sound stupid or crazy, but it works in the wintertime when you're camping out and it's super, super cold. You put a tent inside of a tent. You have a smaller tent inside of a bigger tent, and you're doing all your sleeping and stuff inside the small tent, because now you've got an air gap, between the layers of both tents that keep the internal temp a lot warmer, and you're basically heating it with your body heat. And that's where it comes into play by using one room of your house. If you've got 2 or 3 members of your family and you're all crammed into one room and it's insulated pretty good, you're going to heat it up really, really well. Depending on the temperature, you may heat it up too much and you might have to open the door and cool it down if the outside temperature doesn't cross that point of no return where it's just super, super cold and you're still losing heat. But those are tricks and techniques that you can use. I mean, I've seen people using their oven. They'll turn their oven on, open the oven door. We did it when I was a kid. That's when we got up for school, because the wood stove went out. We'd run downstairs to the oven, crank the oven up, and that's where we would get dressed for school. Yeah, I know it's redneck, but it worked. But it's dangerous. So if you're in a situation where you have multiple ways to heat your house, that is awesome. If you're in a climate or an area where winter really is an issue, good on you. If you're up north where the winter will literally kill you, if you're not prepared, then you need to get off your ass and figure out how you're going to keep yourself and your family warm. Um, because that's just, I mean, the only way if you heat your house with natural gas or an electric furnace or whatever, and you're relying on the system to make sure it works all winter, well, look here, it didn't work in the summer. Okay, think about it. It's part of being prepared. You need to make sure you have a backup plan, whether it be kerosene heaters or those little buddy heaters, whatever they call them. But then again, look at the price of kerosene. What if it just stops? What if the fuel oil pipeline gets hacked again? What if, I mean, because let me tell you something. If I hacked it the first time in the summer and I made $40 million in ransom and I didn't get caught, imagine how much I can make in the wintertime if I hack it again. If I can get 40 million bucks in June for hacking heating oil, I can get 500 million in December for doing it. That's what I'm thinking. Apparently he did it, got away with the money. Nobody got arrested. They blamed it on the Russia or somebody else and just wrote it off. No, sir. No, I don't believe it. So, I mean, as of right now, if you've got food, hey, what's going on, Huckleberry? If you've got food and you've got, clean water supply, honestly, my next number one, because of the time of the year, my next priority is going to be staying warm in the winter. And if you can eat and you can drink water, number 3 on the list is going to be staying warm, until the spring comes. Then you can back off of that and you can focus on something else. But right now, hey, what's going on, Roots? Debbie Sims, Caribbean, what's going on? Right now, coming up into the winter, Yeah, and I mean it's already been predicted that we're going to have a dark winter. You know, it could get ugly. I mean that's my personal opinion. It's you know, people need to prepare for that. You know, and honestly, I mean if it was down into the 20s and 30s here and I didn't have any heat in the house and I didn't have a fireplace or a way to stay warm, but I did have sleeping bags and a tent, I'm going outside in the yard. I'm going to build a fire just like I'm camping. I don't care if I'm in suburbia. You know, I'm going to cut down a few trees. I'm going to build me a fire in the front yard, you know, and it'll be just like we're camping, you know. It'll be a whole lot easier than trying not to burn your house down or to kill you from carbon monoxide poisoning by, you know, burning your charcoal grill in your house, you know. And plus the kids might enjoy it if there are kids. But it is, you know, it's a topic that probably a lot of channels are going to be hitting on it now because we're coming into the winter. You know, and I know you guys have seen the videos with the terracotta pots and the tea candles, and you know, yeah, they do actually work. But again, it it's not like this super massive heater that's just blowing out heat. It'll work if you're in an enclosed room, you know, with excuse me, a well insulated room and it's small. It'll heat a small area. You know, it's not going to heat it up, but it's gonna take the edge off. But then again, those are dangerous. I mean, you've got an open flame burning in your house, you know, and it's emitting those gases that are not conducive to respiratory success. So you're going to have some type of ventilation, and it's winter. So I mean, what are you going to do? It's these are things that you need to be practicing and working up on right now. Hey, Tiger, what's going on? I'm glad you made it. You know, and there's so many videos on YouTube of different ways to heat your house and do this and do that with the terracotta pots. And terracotta pots pretty cool. I've never done one before, but I do think this year I might try it just to see if it does actually work. You know, and then you can switch if it does work. You can switch over to a bigger pot and you can switch over to a larger flame source. And by larger flame source, I'm talking about a can of Crisco. Get you a big thing of Crisco and a dinner candle and shove it down in there, cut it down wick and burn it. And the big thing of Crisco, I can't remember the size of it, but you know, the big thing of Crisco, I mean, that thing burns for like months, like a long time, you know, so that's going to obviously last a lot longer than tea candles. And, you know, there's a reason why on the label of the Crisco, the I in Crisco is a candle. Okay. It's a damn candle. And they burn for a long time. And there are a lot of, yeah, crayons work for a quick candle. They don't last very long, but they do work. Let's see what else we got in here in the chat. Yeah, you don't want to do air mattresses in the winter. You'll freeze. They would be a good uh, they would be good to say stand up on their edge and put them in front of a door, you know, and figure a way to press it up against the door really good. It'll make for a good insulation air gap, a little barrier. But no, as far as sleeping on them, no. Same thing for a waterbed. If you're sleeping on a waterbed in a frozen house, you've got brain problems. I mean, that's just yeah. Unless you've got a unless you got a way to heat the waterbed, that would not be a good idea. Hurricane lamps. I have never used one, so I don't know. Now, carbon dioxide that's going to be produced is going to be directly proportional to the size of the flame and what kind of fuel is being consumed. So it's going to depend on what's making it burn. Yeah, high prepper. Make sure they're all indoor proof. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is get creative in the middle of winter. I mean, it's like, and I know it sounds reverse, but in the middle of the winter here, like say if it got really cold and you know the heat went out or whatever, and I was really worried about it, I would go in the basement because I mean the basement, you know, when you're below ground, it's a constant, steady, pretty reliable temperature. So in the middle of the winter, literally the basement of this house is going to be warmer than the main floors. Um, so that's a very good option if you have a basement or a root cellar. Now, in the summertime, you can go there to cool off, you know, but it works completely opposite or the exact same but opposite in the wintertime. Um, because I mean, I know from this past winter, you know, I was in my basement in January and February. It was like 23, 24 degrees outside, and it was about 66, 65 degrees in my basement in the middle of wintertime. So, yeah, That's definitely an option if you have that option to get below ground. Hey, Oakley, what's going on? Vigorous exercise. There you go, Roots. Exercise is a good way to, what. And here's another thing too. Before you go to bed, like say if you're in the cold, whether it's in your house or outside or whatever, and you're getting in your sleeping bag, you want to eat something sweet. You want to get some sugar content, whether it be chocolate, whether it just be a couple tablespoons of straight sugar, some kind of candy or something, and then get in your bag. Because what that does, the sugar jacks up your metabolism, and your body will heat up, and it will heat up the inside of your sleeping bag a whole lot quicker. That was a hack we used for years in upstate New York, and it worked. Let's see, Ghost, you ever canned fish, Ro? No, I've never canned any kind of fish product yet, but I'm going to. Ghost, can you just simply put a wick in the Crisco or simply push it? Yeah, you could probably do the wick, but the way I've seen it done, TT, is just, those long dinner candles, those white candles that are about a big around your thumb. You just shove it right down into the middle of the Crisco, and then you can just light it and let it burn down, or you can cut it off and light it. Most people cut it off because the candle's about twice as long as the can of Crisco, so they can cut a candle in half and they can use it in two cans of Crisco. But I assume you'd be able to do the whack as the wick as well. But I've seen them where they had multiple candles in one of the big things at Crisco. They had like 3 or 4 different candle wicks shoved down there, and they burned forever. I want to say for days. They burn for multiple days, and Crisco isn't expensive. Plus, it serves two purposes. You can cook with it as well. That's what most people do with it now. Lake Fairy, what's going on? Yeah, a shot of whiskey will warm you up. Hot hands, yeah, hot hands are good. And I don't advise anybody to try this. This is just a true story, what we used to do. When it was negative, 20 or 30 degrees outside, we got all our gloves and all our gear on, and we were on watch, when we're out in the field. We would take 9-volt batteries and reverse them and plug them in together. It's dangerous, but they get nice and hot. They'll warm you up really quick, and then you unplug them. But you don't want to do it for a very long time because they'll blow up. But yeah, I don't recommend anybody doing that. It's just something that we used to do. Oh, I didn't. That will work. Farmer's son used strips of cotton T-shirt for a wicked Crisco. Makes sense. Yeah, a cotton T-shirt would do it. If you have wicks from a regular oil lamp or something, that would work. It was just super easy to watch somebody grab a candle, shove it down in there, and light it on fire. And it was it was quick. There wasn't a whole lot of work up to it. Yeah, you can build a small hothouse or turn one of the smallest room in your house into a hothouse. If it's just you in a big house, the biggest closet you got, or the bathroom, find a central room in your house with as many barriers between you and the outside as possible, and just hunker down, get it as insulated as you possibly can using towels and sheets and whatever you got, and then just layer up and ride it out. I'm Milkmaid. See you later. And another good thing about your body loses body heat through your head, your feet, inside of your arms, the place where hair doesn't grow, inside of your torso, and between your legs. That's where your body radiates heat out. So that's also the place where where you can cool yourself in the summertime. If you're getting overheated, over hot, take the hat off, or make sure you're wearing a light colored hat, and ice packs or something on these sensitive areas, and that radiates either heat from your body or heat into your body. Native does have a wrench, don't he? I thought Native had a wrench. Sure don't. Hang on, let me fix that. Yeah, but those areas of your body will cause you to lose heat the most. Um, and layering, you don't want to have like 3 layers of super tight clothes on, pantyhose, tights, something like that. Your leggings, and borrow a pair of your wife's leggings. I'm telling you, laugh all you want to, but it works. It works really well. layers, and then layers, loose layers, and it will really work very well. Uh-oh, Debbie Sims is canning 30 pounds of potatoes tomorrow. Wow. Yeah, better be careful about them feet. Yeto might be, he might be here already. He might be lurking. Having a small pot of water steaming will help. What? Not sure where that was going. Yeah, he is, TT. He's a foot freak. He loves them toes, especially them crooked ones. See, Lady Hammer said last year here in Texas, we stayed in bed with 12 comforters in one room with plastic on the windows and a king size bed with a dog in the middle under the covers. Yep, it works. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If the power's out and you don't have any secondary way of heating your home, number one, if you got time to insulate the entire house, great. If you don't, pick a room, almost like a safe room. Pick a room towards the middle of the house, insulate the crap out of it. Bring mattresses in, bring pillows in, whatever you need. Bring as much fluffy stuff that holds. There's a reason why quilts work so good. And you notice they're fluffy. In between where they sew it together, they put the down or the whatever material they use to pack it with, and it holds air. It's a thermal insulator. It holds air. That's why everybody loves quilts. Just do the same thing with the entire room that you're in. I mean, just put stuff everywhere. Set up a little tent in the middle of your bedroom, and you'll be surprised how well it works. Back up as a snowmobile suit. That's a very good option. And I know it sounds stupid, but if I had access to one and I could find a wetsuit for diving, that's what I'd put on. I mean, those things they're made to keep your body warm, underwater at pressure where water gets really, really cold. So yeah, I'd put on in a second. Yeah, I wish I had some Mickey Mouse boots. Those things work so well. People lost their feet from wearing those because they got so warm, so hot, your feet would sweat, and yeah, it got bad. You, uh, uh, well, you were there for the. What, did you stay for the whole canning party at the end when I was dropping the the pictures of the feet for Ghetto? Oh, it drove me nuts. But yeah, I would do a wetsuit in a heartbeat. Yeah, that's a good point, Box. Remember to sleep naked with your clothes in the same bed or sleeping bag. Keep water there too, so you don't have to wait for it to unfreeze. Very good point. That's what we used to do with the sleep systems in the military. They work very, very well, but they only work if you use them the right way. If you use them the wrong way, you'll freeze to death. It was stripped down to your skivvies. Our weapon was inside the sleeping bag with us. Our water was inside the sleeping bag with us because there's nothing worse than being out in the field at 20 below zero and all your water is frozen. Because believe it or not, you need just as much water in the cold as you do in the heat, just about, especially if you're exerting yourself. There's a reason why you see the Gore-Tex jackets the military wears on the inside rim, like where your zipper is or your buttons are. There's a Velcro pocket that opens up, and there's a huge pocket inside the Gore-Tex jacket that goes down underneath your armpit on both sides. The reason those are there, that's for your canteens of water or your MRE meals, so your body keeps it from freezing. At least that's what I used it for, and I was told that's what they were there for. It worked great. I mean, it's a little uncomfortable at first, but if you can get the water warm and keep it warm, it's really not that uncomfortable. So what's going on? You're never late. Yeah, so it's that's my main priority wise right now. On my food, I'm good. On water, I'm good. On got plenty of seeds. The number one priority now, the worrisome priority now is the winter, cold weather. If I was somewhere like say South Florida or Texas or New Orleans or some of these southern cities, and it's coming up on a real hot summer, and it's humid, then I would be worrying about the heat and how to keep myself and my family cool. But right now, the priority is winter. And you guys have already seen my cooling method for the summertime. I have 5,000 BTU AC that I can run off my solar generator. No, I did not, Native. But yeah, you're putting, the that urine is leaving your body at what's the 98, 90, it's 90 something degrees is the temperature that it leaves your body. So it's a very good uh, heat source. Water is a very, very good thermal insulator, whether you're keeping something cold or you're keeping something hot. If you put a barrier of water or liquid around it, it's gonna extend the lifetime. Truly, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Awesome. Yep. I mean, the water is if you can, like, for instance, my aquaponic system I had in Florida, it got really, really cold, and well, not really, really cold, but it got down to the 40s a couple times in the span of 2 weeks. So it's probably 7 days where it was down in the 40s, and that's too cold for tilapia. It will kill them. But I had a 700-gallon tank system. I had over 700 gallons of water in the system, and all my tanks were painted black, so they were soaking up that radiant heat from the sun all day long. So by the time it got dark, that the water in my tank was in the 70s, and all throughout the night the temperature was slowly dropping. It was in the 40s outside, but I would go outside and check the temperature in the big fish tanks because I had thermometers in them, and the temperature never got below high 50s. I was a little bit worried. It was like 56, 57. I was a little bit worried, but the fish just got real lethargic and they just stayed still. And as soon as the water heated back up, they went right on back to work the next day. And that process repeated itself several times throughout the winter. But as long as I got the water good and warm during the daytime, it would slowly release the heat at night. It comes out at 98.6, or your normal body temperature. But yeah, and get water in the sunlight even during the winter. You can build your own hot water heater. You can pipe it on your roof, spray paint it black, and have water pumping through it. Have water pumped into it, and let it hold during the day, and you can probably get a couple hundred gallons of water off your roof. It's going to be quite hot in the wintertime. Good hygiene, files, and treatment mix. That's true. You got to watch out for your, uh, your hygiene in the wintertime, especially. Just, year round, pretty much. Very important. All right, I posted the link. Anybody want to come up here and chat? Who's going live tonight? Native, you going hot tonight? I'm not sure who all is, or if anybody else is. I know somebody is. It's Wednesday. Somebody's going hot. I think tomorrow we'll switch topics and we'll handle the topic that I didn't cover yesterday because I canceled the show, and that was some of the unseen issues with the supply chain and the things that people don't notice. Yep, latrine duty is very, very important. And it's another, and I know it doesn't. I guess it would, like, say if you've got a greenhouse, and this is just it's kind of off topic, but it kind of isn't. Like if you've got a greenhouse or you plan on growing throughout the winter, and this is something that I'm considering doing this winter with a couple of tomato plants just to see if it'll work. But I figured I'd replant a couple of tomato plants in the 5-gallon buckets, and I was going to build a little mini greenhouse around them, like say I don't know, like 3 foot by 3 foot square or circle, and wrap it with plastic. But to keep it warm, I was just going to get a couple of shovels full of rabbit manure and maybe some stuff out of the compost pile and put it inside with it, because that compost pile is going to generate heat. It's going to release heat into the little area that I'm trying to keep warm, which is where the tomatoes are. So yeah, so if you have a greenhouse and you're worried about keeping it hot or heating it, just put you a big ass compost pile on both ends and let it do its thing. And there's actually, can't remember who it was, but it's one of the gardening channels that I watch. Actually, it was a aquaponics channel. A guy had fish up north, and he was trying to keep his greenhouse at a good temperature. And he said that he literally had to remove one of the compost piles because it was too toasty in the middle of winter. So it probably didn't smell really well, but it it worked out. Thanks, TT man. I appreciate it. Oh, G2, what G2 put down? G2 dropping some knowledge. Stay pushing. Yep, there you go. Nice. Oh, Susanna's going live, you guys, with her Halloween series. What time are you going, Susanna? And could somebody, I know Roots had your link saved. Could somebody drop Susanna's link, please? I would appreciate it. One second. There you go, Susanna. You can drop your own link if you want. Um, but yeah, let us know what time and get that link dropped and let us know what time so we can check it out. 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's going to be 10 p.m. here, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. Pacific. Or some, I don't know. Yeah, 7 on the West Coast, 10 on the East Coast. Oh no, Dookie Duty is non-binary. There's your link. There's Susanna's link, and her show starts at 8 Mountain, which is 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. I believe I got it right that time. All right, what else you guys got? I know you guys got some really cool ideas on how to stay warm in the winter. Just I don't know, and I could be completely off base. Maybe it's the paranoid in me, but when you go during the summer and you go 2 weeks in between, 3 or 4 major cyber attacks. One hits the power grid, one hits the fuel oil, one hits the computer systems that do the inventory, so that the supply chain delivery system works. That's too coincidental to me. And from now till the day I die, I'll call it a test drive. I'll call it a test drive, and I firmly believe that's what it was. Not sure who the test drive is for, but yeah, it just doesn't work that way. I just left Florida, be charming. I left Florida a little over or a little under a year ago. I was in Central Florida on the Gulf Coast for the last 10 years. Hey, we got a guest joining us. What's going on, Roots?
Hey,
What's
so
happening?
I had a few thoughts, and I am legit curious. Is it true or a myth that body heat can heat you up if two people get naked? And I'm not trying to make it weird. I'm being dead serious. Does
It
two
doesn't.
bodies together
It
work
doesn't.
better than with clothes?
Yeah, it doesn't really heat you up. What it does is, like, if you put one person in a 100 square foot room,
Hmm.
their body is going to dissipate at a certain speed. If you put 10 people in the middle of that room, their body heat's gonna still gonna dissipate, but it's gonna dissipate at a much slower rate because
Oh,
there's a bigger power source. You see what I'm saying? It's like one
yeah,
battery is gonna die a whole lot quicker than 10. So
interesting.
you're not really heating anybody up. You're just extending the period of time that you cool down.
To cool down, right? It's like a generator. It gets bigger
Right.
with each body.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're not really heating anybody up. You're just like, if you were there by yourself, you'd freeze to death in an hour. But if you were there with 9 other people, it'd take you 4.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like they're sharing the heat, so it's radiating away slower, and it's a larger mass.
So I was, oh, Teresa, that's a good point. So if someone else is freezing to death, do you drop trow in order to save their life because you're going to absorb that cold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to, I mean, if you want to help keep them alive, like say,
Hmm.
let's make up some numbers. Like say, if your body heats at 100 and their body heats at say 50, and you go buck wild naked and y'all hug for a while, then your combined body heat's going to meet somewhere around 75.
Huh. Okay, so then I was thinking we were all making jokes a little bit in the chat about using urine bottles or D bags, but that's actually a really good idea. I was thinking, what if you heat up water outside on a fire? Like, let's say there's no power, you don't have a generator. Couldn't a pot of hot water, would that cool down too quickly, or is there any value in heating up water? And what else could you put warm water in to make
Um,
hot water bottles
water
for kids?
water is a real good thermal insulator. But back in the day, I mean, back in the pioneer days and stuff, they used to heat huge rocks on the fire, and they would bring them inside and put them in a
Oh,
pot. You put them under
good
beds, and then
idea.
under your bed, you would heat up rocks. They would actually put them in the bed sometimes, like warm rocks and stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, there were contraptions. There are actually blueprints on little contraptions that people would make. They would be at the foot of your bed, and it would have a
Hmm.
vent that came up with a nozzle that pointed in at your feet, and you would put hot rocks in the closed box underneath it and close the lid on it, and the heat would come up through the vent up into the bed underneath the covers.
Hmm.
There was some weird stuff that were invented that people still have patents on. Yeah,
I've
but
seen something similar. It had a handle. I don't know what it's properly called, but you put in hot coals and you could put
yeah,
it under your bed or near your bed, at least to get to sleep. I'm sure you
yeah,
woke up frozen.
yeah. But I mean, like my thing is, if you're going to go through the trouble to go outside and build a fire and heat up things to bring inside to keep the inside of the house warm, just pitch a tent by the fire. You know what I'm saying? Just go outside and go camping. Turn it into something fun. You know,
Right.
grab your marshmallows, go outside and just go camping. I mean, because it's going to be a lot easier to keep that tent warm than your entire house. And then you're going back and forth with all these rocks.
Hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about that, Hutch, because humidity is eventually going to get cold. That
Yeah,
moisture is going to get cold.
yeah.
Um,
That's why you want it. Thermal the properties of water. A lot of greenhouses up north, that the entire greenhouse, the perimeter inside and outside, they'll have it lined with 55-gallon drums or even 5-gallon buckets, all spray painted black, full of water. So during the day, the black heats up and it heats up the water, and then it slowly dissipates it at night, so it keeps the greenhouse warm. You can do
mhm.
that same effect in your house without any of the humidity, as long as it's in a closed container. But I mean, you're talking about having to heat this and bring this back in, heat that back and forth and back and forth. Now, if your hot water heater is working, if just your heat's out and your hot water heater is working, it it may make your life a little bit more comfortable, but it's going to just
Mhm.
be a pain in the ass to keep up with.
Hmm.
Because I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is, if you're in an environment where you're freezing to death, the one thing you don't want to do is bring water into the equation, and have an accident. Then you've got ice, and that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go. Zombie said his mom put bricks in the potbelly stove to warm him, and then wrapped him in a towel and placed him at our feet. Yep, she would do it a couple times a night. Yep, that's. I mean, if I was going to do something like that, and I had access to a fire, say outside, or even a wood
Yeah.
stove in one end of the house, but the bedrooms are in the other, just heat up them bricks. Get some river stones, some of those big river rocks.
Hmm.
Heat them up, wrap them in a towel, put them in the bed.
That's a really good idea. I didn't think about rocks, but you're right. That's a great idea. All of you that said that is brilliant.
Hmm. And definitely, if you've got pets, they're sleeping in the bed now under the covers.
That's right, Tiger. Awesome band. Yeah.
Price tags. That's a great one. B. Yeah, I mean, if it's just your heat's out and you have electricity, then you know you could take a pillowcase,
Hmm.
or any kind of bag, a t-shirt or something, fill it with rice, throw it in the microwave. Rice stays really, really hot for a long time, and it also stays really, really cold for a long time. That's what people use on their heads for headaches and stuff like that. It'll be a bag
Hmm.
of rice or flaxseed actually works a little bit better, but rice does work.
Northern Girl, hello.
What's
I
up, little
love
girl?
some MGH. Yeah, rice bags or beans, they actually sell a product made for that where you put the rice into the bag and then microwave it or beans and but it's for like muscle aches.
Yeah,
Um,
it works
so
really
but
good. Flaxseed works
it
better.
does.
But it works perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my sister-in-law. I actually have two sisters-in-law that make those. I mean, they on their sewing machine. They actually just gave my mom one yesterday when they came to visit.
Oh, really?
Yep, it's
Cool.
full. It's full of flaxseed, but you can also use rice.
Is it basically a bean bag about the size of your hand and you
It's about you can make it as big as you want it. I mean, hers is probably about 12 inches long, probably about 6 inches wide, and when it's full, it probably holds about that much. But you
mm-hmm,
don't pack it super tight. You know, you pack it like sixty
mm-hmm.
percent full where it's still movable, and you throw it in the microwave and heat it up, and it holds the heat for quite a while, like for quite a while. But then again, if you've got a microwave and you've got electricity, then hopefully you've probably got a heating blanket or a heating pad, so that maybe that helps out a little bit.
Okay, let's say the SHTF, if you've got those bean bags that you've been using for muscle aches, does that compromise whether or not you can cook them if you nuke them a
Uh,
few times?
I can still cook them. I don't think it hurt at all.
Huh.
It may bring down the nutritional value of it a little bit,
Hmm.
the hot cold cycles, obviously. But I mean, worst case scenario, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Jolly P, hello, hello back at Canada.
You know, Militant, I use a heating pad every year. I have gas heat, I have a wood stove, I have a couple of buddy heaters, but it's all really expensive to run. And so a lot of times at night, I'll just put a heating pad on low and sleep with that. And I don't I don't leave the heaters on all night usually. Very rare, but heating pads are awesome. Heated
Yeah,
blankets make me sweat though. You wake up
you
all
got to
sweat.
really, you got to be really, really careful because I've actually done it to myself. I fell asleep on a heating pad and burned the shit out of my leg.
Yeah, you know
You know,
what? You're
so
right. That is
yeah,
dangerous. Don't do
they
that,
are.
people. They are dangerous. You're right. You're right.
I mean, I would use them to like heat up the bed and stuff, but I wouldn't like lay directly on it or what I mean.
Yep.
Uh, I wouldn't have it in. I wouldn't have the heating blanket touching your skin. There needs to be like
Hmm.
a sheet or another blanket, in between you because yeah, it burned the shit out of my leg. I mean, it was like a legit, burn.
Yeah. If anyone has one, make sure it has a timer on it. You can set them so they'll automatically shut off after half an hour or whatever.
Hmm.
But I didn't think of that. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
TT.
shut off.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one that I was using had a shut off, and that just shows you how quickly it burned me. Because I don't know, I didn't notice it till later on in the day that I burned my leg. But so yeah, it's still, even though it's got a 4 hour shut off, 4 hours on that direct heat coming through that plastic or rubber, whatever kind of the heating pad's made of, and then it has a case around it. My problem was the case around it was loose fitting, and part of the actual heating pad itself was contacting my leg, and I was laying on it, and it burnt the shit out of me.
Oh man.
Well, it left a scar for years. I mean, it was a legit burn, but and I would never lay on the heating blanket, just like I would never lay on a heating pad again if I was going to go to sleep. I would always have it like on top, so there's not any pressure just pushing you down into it.
Hmm. Militant has a really good point. Don't plug them into cheaper extension cords. That's true of those little heaters, you guys. Those pull a lot of power. It's a
Yeah,
big fire hazard if you plug it into something that's not equipped to handle it.
you want a heavy duty. You want a contractor type extension cord, and I
Hmm.
would also make sure I had a surge protector on it as well.
Yep.
G2 in the house as usual. Yeah, G. My nephew's wife uh, came to visit yesterday with their son, and I showed him all the goodies that you sent me, and she tried her best to leave here with my soap. I'm like, no, 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 no.
That's funny.
She's like, that's bad. That's Bath and Body Works. You don't need that. That's girl stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. Shut up.
Did they try the hot sauce?
No, I tried to get them to. They wouldn't do it.
Oh, come on.
Would not. But she came down and I busted out my couple of my seed vaults and I gave her a crap load of seeds. Oh, here's a cool story. I wish I'd have took pictures of it, but my nephew's son, I guess he would be like, what would that make in relation to me? Like
Your
great
great
nephew?
nephew.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He calls me Uncle Johnny, so but
Yeah.
2 years old. So, obviously we played with rabbits all day long, played in the yard all day long. He was like my shadow forever. But we were outside and I was showing him all the garden and my nephew's like, is that a watermelon? And it was that one watermelon that grew, but then the wild rabbits ate the entire plant, so that was it. But the
Right.
watermelon was about this big, a little bit bigger than the softball. It was a good grapefruit size. And I'm like, well, I don't know, let's bring it inside and see if it's any good. So we brought it inside, and I called it. My great nephew's name is Trey, so I called it a Trey melon. And we cut this thing open. Don't you know he ate that entire watermelon, and it was delicious.
What?
I had a bite of it. It was great. We saved the seeds, but yeah, he ate that entire watermelon. I mean, it was only yay big, but yeah, he destroyed it.
Oh, that's cute.
But I brought a couple of the baby rabbits inside and let them run around. He played with them for a few hours.
So he sounds like a youngin.
Oh yeah, he's 2.
Oh, yeah, I bet that was fun.
It wore me out. My
Yeah.
brother's home burned down because of a little extension cord plugged into an alarm clock for 8 years. Wow. Yeah, extension
What?
cords are dangerous. I mean, because you get a lot of people just go get the cheapest extension cord they can get, and that is like literally the dumbest move you can make with electricity is getting a very cheap extension cord. Those things are useless. They're worthless. They serve no purpose. I mean, if you look at the amount of power they're rated to push, I mean, that's why would they even? Why would the government or OSHA, whoever controls this thing, why would they even let them produce these cheap, crappy extension cords? Why is there different levels of them? Why don't they just make really good extension cords that work instead of you having to go get the contractor grade extension cord or this or that or the other? It's just too confusing. It allows people to get hurt and make mistakes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
See you later, Northern Girl. You have a great one. I mean, when I was a firefighter, I mean, we went to a house. It was fully engulfed, and it was an older house, um, and it was an older couple, probably at least in their 70s, and they legit had car batteries in the house, and they had wired up extension cords to the car batteries, and had them running down the hallway of the house, and they had those work lights, and
Oh,
that's how they had power in the house. It burned their whole house down.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
those are temporary charming. Those little cheap Walmart white extension cords that everybody has. Yeah, they're only supposed to be used for like a short amount of time. I mean, they build up heat. They're garbage. Like the extension cords I use, they're all. I mean, I pay good money for good extension cords, so I ain't got to worry about crap like that because I have several 100 footers inside my house, and the reason for that is I have one in here right now sitting at the foot of my desk right beside my solar generator that's fully powered. So if my power goes out, I just plug it in and I take the roll and I unroll it all the way to the other end of the house. And it's got the 3 ways on the end of it. And then you can
Mm.
plug up whatever you want to plug up in the living room. I can plug up whatever I need to plug up in the bedroom. I turn the switch and my solar generator powers it till the power comes back on. And then when it comes back on, I just roll the extension cord back up to the bedroom.
Right. I think militant, you're right. It's worth the money, and don't get uh like look at the ratings on everything. I'm not just going to dog certain retailers or whatever, but don't just go out and buy the easiest cheapest crap. Look at
Yeah,
the ratings, look at the ratings of your cords, look at the rating of the device. Um, Sometimes the cheaper ones actually pull more power. It's almost like they're set up to light on fire, you
yeah.
know?
And I always
So
get the outdoor.
spend bucks.
I always get the outdoor drop cords. They're always they're better insulated. They're
Hmm.
stiffer. They're made to last longer. I always. I mean, they cost a little bit more, a couple bucks more, but they'll last 3 times as long as the indoor drop cords. Even if they're rated for the same current, I still
Hmm.
get the outdoor.
Hey, Carrot Top, that's a
You're
good
welcome.
point. They're
Bro.
insulated.
Yeah, they're insulated real well.
Yeah.
And the insulation is what it literally insulates the current that's traveling down the wire. I mean, the worse the insulation is, the bigger the release of energy. It's like you're losing the entire time you're pumping energy through the line, you're losing energy from the source to where it gets to you. So the better insulated it is, the less power you're losing.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever you hear about house fires, sometimes someone dropped a cigarette while they were sleeping, but to me, it seems like it's electrical fire almost every time, or someone's dryer lint caught on fire
Yeah,
because they didn't clean
yeah.
that out, you know. But electrical is it is a serious issue to take up if anyone's looking at little electric heaters or the cords for them. Safety, I think, is a good aspect of this.
hmm Harvest Mary Moon says, Ghost, how do you feel about solar jackeries like for a mini fridge? Are they reliable? I've never used a jackery. I use an Energy Apex. Energy Apex is my solar generator, and I've used it on my mini fridge. I've used it with my big fridge. I've used it with, oh my goodness, with pretty much everything in my house that can be plugged into it, including the microwave, just to see if it works. It does run the microwave, not for a very long time. Microwaves suck up microwaves are probably your most energy inefficient appliance in your entire house. If you want to
Yep.
lower your electricity bill, stop using your microwave and watch what happens. I mean,
Hmm.
and I don't mean just stop using it, unplug it, and watch what happens to your energy bill. Microwaves suck up a crap load of juice. Same thing with like hair dryers. Your hair dryers, those things are hungry. But anything that produces heat is hungry. But
Yep.
I've used my generator on everything. It'll run according to the factory. It'll run like my mini fridge on one charge for like 3 weeks. It'll run the main refrigerator in your house, your big refrigerator. If you don't open the door that much, it'll run it for like 5 or 6 days on one charge without recharging the generator. If that's
Hmm.
the only thing operating. So yeah, they work really. I'm very happy with mine. I mean, it doesn't do as much as I wish it would, but I can add batteries to it, so I can make it more efficient. The energy, Energy, energy. Some people say energy, but I mean the word "in" is spelled "in," so it's just a play on the letters. The energy Kodiak and the energy Apex is the one I have, and right now they have the new one out. It's called the Energy Flex, and it is just amazing. It's expensive as crap, but it's an amazing system. Yeah, you gotta be careful with batteries when you throw them in a drawer. I mean, if you just got random batteries, like say a 9 volt battery, where both the positive and negative are at the same end, and
Hmm.
say it happens to roll up next to, oh, I don't know, a screwdriver or a piece of aluminum foil, now you got a fire. I mean, a 9 volt battery is a really efficient fire starter. So is any battery. If you can get metal to metal on positive to negative, it's a really good fire starter. So, I mean, there's a reason we use them to start fires in the woods. They start fires. So that shit still works in the house. So if you're going to be storing batteries and they're not in their original container, take a little bit extra time to make sure the positives and negatives aren't touching the same thing, or it could be, yeah.
Yep.
Rats are super good on electrical cords. Rats will chew on anything. Rats don't do it because they like the way it tastes. If you guys have noticed before, the reason rats chew on things and chew through, rats can chew through steel pipes. I mean, rats can literally pretty much chew through anything. The reason they do that is because a rat's teeth never stop growing. So if they don't constantly chew on hard stuff and whittle their teeth down, the same thing goes for rabbits, squirrels, everything in that family. Their teeth will literally, you know, their teeth, especially their bottom teeth, will grow up into their skull. The top teeth will grow, completely out of the front of their mouth. So they do it That's like a survival technique. They have to chew on stuff or it's bad.
Interesting.
I mean, stories of the sewer rats chewing through the metal sewer pipes, in New York City and places like that. They have to chew on things to file their teeth down. That's like Tiger was saying. That's what I was saying. We use them as in the military. The two 9 volts. We spin them around and plug them into each other, and they get hot. They get hot to the point they will eventually pop. But we've always unplugged them before then. But if you have a battery in a drawer and say it's a 9 volt and it's in both the positive and negative end prongs are touching, say, a screwdriver or anything metal, it's going to get really, really hot.
Hello, Constitutional.
Hey, what's going on, Constitution Department? You're welcome, Mary. Leon Princess, what's going on? So, what were we talking about?
We were talking about batteries and wiring.
Oh, yeah.
A side thought that came to my mind, which I feel like is pointing out the obvious, but don't run your generators indoors.
No. Yeah.
Like we didn't talk a ton about generators.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are run by gas.
Yes. Now, actually, I'm going to do a series on the generator, mine either this winter or this spring, because I've got a brand new one still in the box. I haven't even unboxed it yet. I've had it for a couple months to replace the one that I left in Florida. But like my generator in Florida, instead of going outside and cranking it and then running the drop cords, because now you're losing power. All right, are you following with these people? Anytime you're losing, like if you're producing the energy in that generator, for every drop cord that you run from it, you're losing power. And the longer the run is on the drop cord, you're losing power. So you want it to be as close as possible to your system as possible. And so say I had a 7,500 watt generator, but running drop cords, I would only get, maybe 500. But what I did is I took my generator and I wired it into my junction box in my house. I bought something at Home Depot, or actually it was Home Depot. It's called a transfer switch. And it's an electric box that you mount on the wall. And you have the rated cable that comes from the generator all the way into the house, into this little junction box. And it's got an on-off switch. And then you pick what circuits out of your main breaker box you want to power. And then you run those 6 lines to those 6 circuits that you want to power. And so what happens is if the power goes out, all I would do was go in the garage where my breaker box was, and I would flip the main switch off my breaker box. I completely killed any power from the system. And then I would mash the button on my generator, it would crank up, and then I would flip the switch in my junction box to generator. And now all the power coming from the generator is coming in the rated lines. It's not losing hardly any energy before it makes it to my breaker box, which is distributed through the listed, the rated power lines to the house. But it would power my room, the kitchen, the family room, my parents' room. So it powered everything in my house that we needed powered. It powered all the appliances in the kitchen, the whole 9 yards. And when the power came back on, I would just turn my generator off, flip the switches back to the main, and then flip the main switch back on, and I was back on, city power. So it cost. I think the switch was like 150 bucks, but it's so worth it. I never had to run any drop cords, never had to do it. But now here's the thing: you can even add drop cords to it if you wanted to. It was just having it wired to the house was way more efficient. There's no longer a fire hazard. It was actually really easy to do. But now, as far as your gas for your generators and stuff like that, I plan on taking, like, the one I have is just a regular gas generator, but it's going to be run on everything. I'm wiring it to the because I have a 200-gallon propane tank buried in the yard. It's not above ground; it's below ground. It's buried. I'll be running the line from that to my generator, and I'm also going to run a line from the natural gas line that comes into the house from there to the generator. So it's going to be a tri-fuel generator. It'll run on gas, natural gas, or propane. But it will be outside. And for those of you that have seen the videos, like coming out of my basement, there's a landing that's 4 feet below ground. It's encased in brick, and then I have to go up steps to get to the main level of my yard. I'm closing that in. It'll be covered, and the generator will be put there. When I need to use it, I'll open the door and roll it out to the outside area. But I'm also going to poke a hole in the sidewall of the brick, and I'm going to run a PVC exhaust extension out down the backyard to where all the fumes are pumped up, good 40, 50 feet away from the house. But the best part is the generator will be buried underground, so there won't be that much sound when it's running, which is awesome.
Right. That is something to think about. Sounds, smells.
Yep. And yeah, zombie, yeah, that's the reason they have the transfer switch, is because that way you're not charging the power lines and endangering the linemen. When the linemen are out there working on it, if you're running a generator wide open and you don't have it disconnected from the main, and you don't have that transfer switch, and you don't have the main line off, when those guys are working on those lines, you can backfeed through those power lines and kill the power line workers. So yeah, you don't want to do that. And there are ways to do it with a main switch where you just plug it in, but you got to know what you're doing, and it's kind of dangerous. It just makes sense to spend the 150 bucks and get a transfer switch. It's safer, and it actually my homeowner's insurance went down when I done that, and I
Huh.
got more, for the house when I sold it.
Interesting.
So if you have a generator and you just have a generator, good for you. But if you have a generator and it's professionally wired into your house with a transfer switch, that helps you on your homeowner's insurance, because it's an extra for your house that now your house has power when the power goes out, and it's wired in correctly. So your homeowner's insurance goes down, plus your property value goes up because you have alternate power to your house. Like the house that I had in Florida before I came here, I put in the generator, I wired it in, I did the aquaponics system, I hooked it all up, I plumbed it all, the whole 9 yards, and I got sold it for almost $30,000 more than what I was asking for it, above the listed property value, simply because three families got into a bidding war because of the aquaponic system with the fish and because of the generator being wired into the house. They were offering, I sold the house for almost $30,000 more than it's worth because of those
That's
simple
crazy.
little changes. Yeah, it's weird how, because one of the guys that was in the bidding war, he wasn't a full blown prepper, but he was getting into the whole prepared thing, and he was in love with the hydroponics and aquaponics, and he was in love with the generator being wired in, and he got the house. He was an ex-Marine, and I was like, "Yep, it's yours." I
Hmm.
mean, I stopped the bidding. I didn't wait till they finished. I'm like, "I'm done. The price you
Right.
just said today, I accept that price. We're done. It's yours."
They could see the value of what you did.
Yeah. Who? No, I am not. Bunnies love cold weather. All you gotta do is keep them dry and keep them out of the wind, and they will be just fine. But um, I'm still gonna insulate a little bit. I'm gonna keep the wind off of them, but it doesn't get that cold here. I mean, it really doesn't get that cold here to where I got to worry about the bunnies at all. The only thing I have to worry about in my climate where I'm at is the heat in the summertime, because all of my rabbits are bred to be heat tolerant. That's why their ears are so big. So it'll be, yeah. So the bunnies should be completely fine. But like as far as the babies go, I'll just make sure the mom has plenty of straw to build a nest, and they pull, man. Let me tell you something. They pull so much hair when they insulate that nest. I mean, they're good in like sub-zero temperatures. I mean, it really blew my mind how well insulated those nest boxes are when they insulate it. But if I'm thinking we're going to get super super cold, I can just I can wrap the entire cage assembly from the ground to the top. I'll wrap it in a tarp, and their rabbit body heat will keep it going. As long as they're not in the wind and they're not wet, they should be fine. Hey, we're setting up to the direct plug, but hubby, I'm telling you, Charmin, tell him to do the transfer switch. I hooked it up myself. I'm not an electrician, and the instructions are so easy to follow, and it's completely safe. I mean, you just make sure you turn the main switch off to your station, and you're good. It was very very easy to do. It looks professional. As I mean, it's definitely do the transfer switch. Definitely, like there is no other. In my opinion, there is no other option. It's either run it off of drop cords and lose a little bit of power, because obviously my drop cords are heavy duty outdoor. You can run it off drop cords and lose a little power, or wire it in with a transfer switch. Transfer switch is the way to go. It's safe and it works. If I missed anything, Constitutional Carpenter says mine neighbor generator is set up as dual fuel, ran on propane, hooked up one of those transfer switch, runs the whole out. There you go. Yep. And here's the thing: if you have a gas powered generator, say it runs on regular gas from the gas station, you can also go to Home Depot or Lowe's, or you can go on Amazon and buy it. And it's a conversion kit, and it's only a couple of screws, and it's something that you just screw into the carburetor type deal, and it converts it to where now it runs on gas and propane, or gas and natural gas. So you don't have to buy a special generator. If you've got a gas powered generator, you can get a kit and convert it to use dual fuel or all fuel. Yeah, right. Yeah, mine's gonna be because I have 200 gallons of propane. If it runs out, actually I won't even use the propane. I'll use the natural gas that's pumped to the house because it doesn't require any power to run the natural gas. It runs on pressure. So like when your power's out, your natural gas is still getting to your house. So if you have a furnace that runs on natural gas, it's not going to work if power goes out. Why? Because the fan won't work. The fan in that furnace is the only thing that requires electricity. So if you can get a little bit of power to that fan, whether you hot wire it, however you do it, now you got heat. Now your furnace is working. So as long as the natural gas is flowing, that's what I'll use. And then I'll switch over to the propane and as last resort, fuel that I would use for my vehicles. But I also keep, like all three of my vehicles, I keep them as full as possible. The Honda holds, I think, 15 gallons. My Cadillac holds, I think, 20 gallons. And then my truck has 40 gallons. It has two tanks. My truck has a left and a right gas tank, and each one holds 20. So that's 40, 50, 60, 75. And then when my gas cans, I've got over 80, probably close to 90 gallons of fuel. And to run an entire house, it takes 7,500 watt generator that I had in Florida. It was about 5 gallons of fuel, would last a little longer than a day. I downsized the Jenny here to a 5,500 watt. That's all I really need. I actually don't even need that much. But I'm figuring, if you use it when you have to use it, not all the time, you don't just crank it and just let it run to live in luxury. You use it when you need to use it. I mean, you can make 5 gallons probably stretch out for 2 to 3 days on a 5,500 watt. So that would leave me close to a month's worth of fuel. But it's like I said before, a generator, it's a short-term fix to a long-term problem. It's just to help you get accustomed to the simple fact that you're going to be living in the dark. If the grid totally goes down, fuel is going to be gone very, very quickly. So, I mean, your generator, if you have 2 weeks worth of fuel, and you got 2 weeks to get you and your household used to existing without electricity.
I would suggest carbon monoxide detectors, everyone, regardless of what your heating source is going to be, get those around your house in as many rooms as you can. Nowadays, a lot of power companies give them away for free. You go to the website and look at some of their resources. Sometimes you can get the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors for no cost. So think about things like that too.
Uh-oh, ghetto's in the house. Yeah, Nikki's got rabbits too, by the way, you guys, in between prepping. Yeah, and I always heard they pulled fur and they build a nest. But Za's first litter was born in the summertime. She didn't pull any fur. She had the babies on the straw, and then she pulled fur and covered them up. But it was only a little bit. I mean, it was like a tiny little bit. This second batch, man, like I'm convinced like her whole underneath is completely bald. It looked like somebody went in there with clippers and sheared her like a sheep. I mean, there was fur blowing around my backyard. There's fur all over the ground. Like there's fur everywhere.
Huh.
With a crap load of fur.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was tripping. Like before I even got there, I'm like, whoa, she must have had babies because there's fur everywhere. Yeah, solar and wind, if you can afford the solar, it works really good. I mean, it's like I've got my solar Jenny, it'll do what it needs to do. But worst case scenario, always plan on everything breaking down. Plan on a hailstorm coming through and ruining your solar panels. Plan on something happening internally in your solar generator and it burns up and there is no way to get it fixed. So, to me, in a true grit down and it ain't coming back, that's just a stopgap. That's just a bridge. That's like uh, using drugs to ease the withdrawal symptoms from heroin. You know, that's what the generator is. It's just like to ease your transition back into the 1800s. Yep. Plus, you have to think about the noise. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, Militant, with mine being buried underground. Yeah, if you live in a populated area, everybody can hears it running. Everybody hears it running. And that's when most generators get stolen, people. It's not when somebody breaks into your garage and takes it. They will legit in Florida during the hurricanes and stuff and the rebuild, 2, 3 weeks after power. People were getting their generators stolen while they were running. They just come up to the house, snatch the cords loose, grab the generator, and haul ass. Yeah, so yeah, it's a noise. It's very, very loud. Yeah. So if you don't have it buried or have it in one of those soundproof boxes or a sound deadening box, it's going to draw attention. If you're in the middle of nowhere, everybody's like, "Oh, in the middle of nowhere, it ain't worried about it." It still draws attention. I mean, if you're out in the middle of the woods, the sound of a gas generator is super, super loud. It's going to carry, it's going to echo. Even if you're in the middle of nowhere, I would still try to deaden the sound a little bit. Yeah, afford solar, man. Solar's the way to go. Wind power is also good, but the wind is very unpredictable. If I lived close to a river that was putting out some serious, water, I would look into the hydro. I would
Yep.
look into a wind, water-driven wind wheel, water wheel, and all that good stuff. There's actually channels on YouTube that it shows a guy taking a washing machine and he went through and changed some wires and changed some stuff around the inside and he turned it into a generator and he's got it hooked up to his river that runs through his back of his yard and he powers his house with a washing machine.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. And there's another
One of
one
the
that did.
coolest ones I saw was a dude that figured out how to generate power from his rain gutters.
Yeah, rain gutters. I've seen people use
He harvested that
washing
energy.
ceiling fans. Yes, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's what an alternator does in your car. It produces the electricity to run your car once it's going. So if you can reverse there's something that they do inside with the brushes, and you can hook that thing up to a bicycle, and you can start cranking, and you're pumping out juice. You're pumping out watts.
Yep.
Um, Zombie, you can't put quiet. You can, and I actually watched several videos about that because I thought about doing that with mine until I decided to bury it. Um, it really doesn't work. Like those mufflers, they do deaden the sound a little bit, but it's it's because here's the thing. It's the engine itself is where the noise is coming from. Like the entire engine is rattling. That's why it's sitting there on those rubber mounts. So it's the entire engine that's rattling. It's not mounted like an engine is in your car, and it's not built like an engine in your car. It's just a noisy beast. So I've watched crazy videos of putting expensive mufflers and all kinds of crazy different mufflers, and it did lower the decibels, but it was like a very small amount. Versus the best way, honestly, the best way he silenced his generator, he just took pieces of plywood, random size plywood, and leaned them on it at weird angles, and it just made the sound bounce and go in crazy weird directions. It was almost like stealth on an airplane. But I've seen people with them buried. I've seen people with them in the soundproof boxes or the sound deadening boxes. They do actually work pretty good. I mean, it quiets them down. You can still hear them. Um, but I'm just gonna bury mine and give it some air and blow the exhaust and hopefully a lot of the noise down the mountain, down the hill. Yeah, he did have some long cords. That washing machine guy. Also, if you're put some gallons of water in your freezer, that will help your fridge. And yeah. Like my freezer, my chest freezer, before I put anything in it, I froze. I put 10 or 15 gallon freezer bags, half full of water, in the bottom, and I let them freeze solid, and then I put the food in. Um, yeah, it takes away from the square footage of the stuff that I can put in the freezer. But here's the thing: heat rises. So when you open the lid to your chest freezer, the hottest air in that freezer is at the top. So it actually runs. A chest freezer is actually more efficient than a stand-up freezer because when you open a stand-up freezer, you're opening the entire profile of that freezer to the hot air. That's why when you open it, you get smacked with all this cold air from your feet to the top of your head. But if you open up a chest freezer, you really don't get smacked with a whole lot of cold air because that's just the hottest air in the freezer coming out because the
Yep.
coldest air is at the bottom. So if I can legit go unplug that freezer because I've done it before to thaw it out and clean it before I moved up here. Because I cleaned everything out and thawed it out before I moved, and then I put all the freezer stuff back in it. And then my freezer, this is a true story, guys. In the back of my U-Haul truck, I'm not gonna lie, because I had all my canned foods and I was worried about it getting super hot because I moved, at this time of the year last year. I was worried about all my canned foods that I can getting hot and going bad. So, honest to God, true story. I put my freezer and my mini fridge in the back of the U-Haul and my 5,000 BTU wall air conditioner, and I'll hook them all up to my solar generator. And
Huh.
I air conditioned the back of my U-Haul truck so my food didn't go bad. And I also ran my freezer and my refrigerator so I didn't lose anything on the move up here. But I kept the back of the truck, in the low 70s, so it wasn't super, super cold, but it kept all my canned goods that I canned, at a decent temperature for the entire move up here. That was the coolest thing I've used my solar generator for. It was awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, but my freezer, when I got back up here, I freeze. I've got probably a 6, maybe an 8-inch layer of ice in the bottom of the freezer, but it's all in frozen individual freezer bags, so I can pull them out anytime I want. And then I put all the food on top of it because if the power fails, my freezer will probably be good. If I didn't open it for a week, I'd probably still have ice and everything would still be good inside of it because it's insulated very well and heat rises. So it's sitting on all that ice at the bottom, so it's going to take it a whole lot longer to warm up.
I did the exact same thing. I've got about a dozen jugs lining I have a chest freezer right next to me in the garage. And so if the power does go out, that is going to stay frozen for quite a long time. And as long as I don't over open it and mess with it, I reckon I'll get several days of the food, even if it thaws, still being good enough I can get it canned, by the time I get
Yeah.
through there.
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, Virginia, when we were talking about more than one person keeping everybody warmer. It's
Yep.
the exact reverse of that in the freezer because
Yep.
the freezers work better if they're completely full. If your freezer's full, it's going to operate less because there's everything in it's frozen. Once it's all frozen, it doesn't have to work that hard. If your
Right.
freezer's only half full or almost empty, it's going to be running nonstop because there's not that much stuff in there to keep cold.
Right. It's not just trying to cool air.
Yippers.
Yeah, zombie, an old school ice house, or like my mom
Yeah,
still calls refrigerator the
ice
ice
box.
box.
Yeah, same thing.
She still does.
Yeah, we used to have one when I was growing up at my grandfather's farm. An ice box.
Yep.
You had the ice, the dry ice delivered. I remember milkmen coming to bring the milk every morning. Well, actually, it was every 2 days. Every other day they would bring milk. Oh, or was
Right.
it? I think it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday they brought milk. But you had the little metal thing, and you had the carafes full of milk with the
Yep.
aluminum lid on top. Yeah, that's where we got milk. That was the best milk I
Interesting.
ever had. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, if something goes stupid, you got to get creative. You got to figure out ways to do it. You know,
Hmm.
it's got to. I mean, it's like look at refrigerators. Refrigerators are bullshit. Refrigerators are a gimmick.
Yep. They're
Refrigerators
inefficient.
are a reason to make you spend money on electricity,
Yep.
right? Because here's the thing: most all refrigerators. Think about it. Where's the engine? Where's the motor that runs it?
In the back.
It's at the bottom. It's at the very
Oh,
bottom in the back.
yeah.
Very bottom in the back. Heat rises. So every time it's cranking it up to get everything cold, all that heat's in, and the motor's inside the refrigerator. Okay, why not put the motor on the very top
Yeah. So the heat goes up away.
and have thicker walls on your refrigerator where it's insulated?
Right.
Refrigerators are made to run friggin' all the time, so it costs you money. They're not. There's nothing energy efficient about a refrigerator. If you don't believe me, then why do they make the DC refrigerators that go in your campers? Why are they super insulated and super expensive? And they work really, really well. The walls in those refrigerators are like 3 times as thick as the ones in your house.
Right.
And the engine is on the top. And the motor's on the top. Yeah, so it's all a racket, man. It's business is trying to figure out a way to make more money, more money, more money off of you. It's bullshit. Gosh, there's just two. Free power for 16 years from modified washing machine, water wheel, Marty T. Yeah, that dude was. I mean, it was redneck as shit, but it worked. I mean, dude, literally made a water wheel out of a washing machine and powered his house. Mhm. Crazy. All right, boys and girls, we're coming up on an hour and a half. I believe I'm gonna shut her down and go get me some dinner. Maybe watch some other people there on YouTube spread some knowledge. But I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming to hang out with me. I really do appreciate it. Uh, I want to thank Ruth for hopping up here and hanging out. And thank you guys for your really good questions and your good feedback. I appreciate it. These little chit chats are kind of fun. I'm starting to get into a rhythm. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7:30. And tomorrow, I think we're going to jump back into the supply chain stuff. I want to talk about some of the stuff most other people don't talk about, and different weird ideas that I get on why things are doing and why things are going the way they're going, without getting too rabbit holey. We're just going to chat about it, and look at how society is reacting to it now versus how society would have reacted to it 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That shows that just goes back to the old rabbit in the pot, or the frog in the pot on the stove. And
Yeah.
so it is what it is. But I'm going to get off here and go find me something to do and watch somebody else talk on YouTube. But thanks everybody in the chat. Thanks for the members for hanging out with us. Thanks for the moderators. I appreciate what you do. Thanks, Roots. And we will talk to you guys later.
See y'all soon.